Hey, Ryan.
Yeah.
So Wenzel does not have to sit out.
Oh, good.
Yep.
That's an NBA thing. I was just curious. Someone
Yeah.
asked me.
Yeah. Well, I know if he were to get involved, he would, but since he didn't get involved.
That's good.
All right. Going in there.
Circle back around after he's completed and maybe make some supplemental comments of what he has said, and then also make myself available to some questions that are there. So first of all, many coaches are always great as far as saying they had the greatest signing date they've ever had, and that, they got everybody they want and things like that. I think you guys know us well enough that we're going to speak the truth. Sometimes my glass is a little bit half empty. I can be somewhat pessimistic, but I can be pretty damn pragmatic too. This second signing date, I really want to applaud Gordy with his vision and sharing this recruiting effort, because what we were able to do with the first class is I think we identified a lot of our needs and met a great majority of our needs. And then as you go into the second signing class, there sometimes can be a tendency to have slipped from a standpoint of evaluation and the recruiting efforts, simply because you've got this guy and you think you're going to got this guy in the boat, and then all of a sudden he goes someplace else, and now you're looking at not the next guy, you're not looking at the next guy after that or the next guy after that. You're looking at a guy pretty far down the line. And what occurs is you end up signing some guys that are either, as we call it in our recruiting office, at the line or below the line, simply to say you're going to meet some needs. And when I say at the line, that means, maybe a mark that passes a threshold that we feel like this guy deserves this opportunity of a scholarship or this opportunity to walk on. So what I'm saying here is I really commend our coaching staff that we kept our foot on the gas pedal, and we continue to cull through as we addressed a good portion of the needs that we had in the first signing date. And so I really think that we supplemented our roster coming into the 2023 season, with kind of a three-pronged approach. Number one, there were some transfer needs that we had identified after our season that I feel like we've met. I felt like we certainly needed to supplement our recruiting, not our recruiting, but a running back position. I also felt like we needed some weapons on the outside, not possession receivers, but guys who really could, separate. And so we're confident that we've done that. We also needed to continue to fill some spots with some high school players at certain positions. And each of these guys met a pretty significant criteria that we continued to have recruited some guys. And then when things became apparent that we were going to need these guys and then have a scholarship at this position, we were able to do that. And then along with this, our program has been really, I think, ahead of the curve as far as utilizing walk-ons or non-scholarship players that we've integrated within our program and either put them on scholarship while they've been here, or they've made contributions without a scholarship. And so what we were able to do was go in and make some decisions on, okay, if we have a spot in the 110 roster in fall camp, and we're limited in fall camp how many guys that we can have. Okay, what guys are out there right now that we can be ahead of the curve and say, you have a spot with the Wyoming-Cowboys in fall camp. And there's a pretty compelling argument when you're able to offer that to some guys, because some of these guys are looking at maybe an FCS offer. Some of them are looking at a Division II offer. while some of those offers may not be full offers, many times they are. And so, a bird in the hand is better than two in the bush. And so I think we really came up with a comprehensive plan from that standpoint. So just backtracking before I turn the chair over to Gordy. Number one, we identified our transfer needs to make a run this next year to really improve our roster, which I'm convinced that we have. Number two, we supplemented our scholarship listing with high school players. And number three, we made some really, really great offers and got acceptance for some preferred walk-ons. So I'm personally really pleased. I think Gordy did a great job. We inserted Gordy in this chair because I felt like we had dropped off, maybe not on the optics on the outside, but I knew internally we needed to step up our efforts. And I appreciate Gordy's double timing and did a lot of great things. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Gordy. You look all kind of dapper, Gordy, I would say.
Appreciate it, Coach.
Okay.
I hope everybody's doing good. Obviously, exciting time for Wyoming football today. As we added 21 new names to the roster, which is seems like a lot, but there's been a lot of tireless days and work to be able to supplement our roster in the right way. And so I'm just going to go through and start with our first our 8 signees scholarship wise, and kind of talk about them, the process and how we got them and all the things. So first off, I'll talk about the transfers. So the first one, Ayer, I know that's one name that you guys had no idea about, but Ayer Asante, he's from Franklin Township in New Jersey and played 4 years at Holy Cross. And so, he was a second team All-Patriot League receiver for 3 consecutive seasons, had a bunch of accolades in that situation. And that's a program that has been, producing some really good football players. And so we were familiar. Coach Mike Grant had a connection out there, got to know him, came out on campus with his mom and grandmother. And they're really affectionate people. I mean, they were fired up about what Wyoming has, the resources that we're able to develop them and be able to roll. So Ayer is coming. And then the next one, transfer Devin Body. He comes from Vanderbilt, originally from Memphis, Tennessee, came out with his dad. When you watch his tape, even though some of it's limited, this last season, the year before, he had a really productive year. And another guy who we feel can do some different things in the pass game and help us out immediately. And so we're excited about Devin and Ayer getting some depth and some guys that have played some football at different levels as well. So those are the 2 transfer portal kids that we got. And then, getting down to our junior college, Tyrekus Davis, coming from Navarro Community College, he's a really, really impactful, plays with his hair on fire type of guy. I mean, he plays with a lot of passion. He's originally from Greenville High School out in Texas. Coach Oscar Giles went in there, middle of the season, and we started kind of, specking out. We might have some room for some of these transfer guys outside of just the transfer portal. And so, it's almost like we have 3 different cycles of recruiting now, and to be able to, put that into a class, this is the first season that I felt pretty good with what we were doing. And so Tyrekus, expect him to be a big player for us in the future here. And he's on campus right now. So Ayer and Devin, they're graduating from Holy Cross and Vanderbilt this semester, then they get here in May. Tyrekus is already on campus and he's going through workouts and everything there. So just to clarify that. Okay, going into our high school guys. Okay, first one on the list, Nathan Geiger. A Denver kid, went to Thunder Ridge High School. Really was a guy that we knew about. He was a little bit thinner junior year, all those kinds of different things, but we, turned back around and watched his tape and went in and saw him, go through wrestling workouts and, different things like that. But a guy who I think is a very talented, athletic offensive lineman that's got the size to be able to be a tackle for us. And so he's in our MO of development. He's going to develop, but he's got the tools of athleticism and length, and we're really excited about him. Next one, Tyler Jacklick. So he is running back. You probably recognize the high school. It's the same high school as Dwyan McNeely. Actually, they're pretty good friends. His older brother and Dwyan were in the same class, but kind of grew up with Dwyan and things there. So, I was excited for us to have an opportunity to sign him because I always knew he was a really good football player. At the time, looked at him at linebacker, looked at him at running back, all those kinds of different things. But I think he is a phenomenal player. He is very similar to what Dwyan's skill set's going to be in the aspect that he's going to run hard and he's big. And so, I'm really excited about him. He had 2,200 yards rushing on 201 carries, 32 touchdowns, an all-state running back by both Max Preps and Cal High. I mean, he's a guy that I'm surprised didn't have more, but I'm extremely excited to coach him and things there. Okay, the next guy, Brant Rice, comes from Wausau West High School in Wisconsin, but he's one of those guys that's going to be a meat and potatoes, get after people, interior offensive lineman. He's already super strong, lives in the weight room, is more ready-made than, potentially some of the other offensive linemen we've signed before. But Brant and his family came out this last weekend and got him. And we're excited about just the demeanor he brings the offensive line. He's a nasty dude. Next one, going back to Colorado, Jones Thomas, out of Poudre High School in Fort Collins. But he is a very interesting athlete. He was a track guy. His dad's the head track coach there, played at CSU. But he was a safety wide receiver, but really was a playmaker. I mean, made a lot of plays and did a lot of things in his senior year that we were able to, have a spot and be able to really recruit him and get to know him pretty well. And, he's going to be those safeties that have some length, that have some athletic ability, that have some range, that can run and hit and make some plays. And so we're excited about, Jones as well. Okay, the next guy, Kuba Tajska, he's actually from Poland. His parents are from Poland. He was born in Illinois, but he is a guy that is very raw, but he is athletic, can run. He meets that same, mold of height and size to be able to develop into, a guy that could be playing for us. And so he was a hockey player, has a job throughout the season. He's got some accolades that are pretty good, but, his film is not, as great as maybe some people would say, but what you see when you dive into it is the straight athleticism and how hard he plays, and I'm excited about Kuba. Actually committed to Coach Bohl on the phone in Polish. I'm a cowboy, which was pretty cool. So those are the guys that the 8 guys that we have signed. And I guess, I don't know, Tim, if we want to open up for questions just about the scholarship guys and then go back into the preferred walk-ons. I'm not sure how we want to do this.
I think that's fine. Do you guys
Okay.
want to go through the scholarship guys first? Ask Gordy about them first. Okay, let's do that. Just raise your hand. Cody?
Gordy, how sweet is it to go into Poudre High in Fort Collins? You said his dad also played at CSU and start snagging those kids. Plus, you see 5 guys from Colorado on this list, and there hasn't been a lot of Colorado guys of late that we're used to seeing around here.
Yeah. I think, just being able to understand this whole new realm of recruiting that we're getting into with transfer portal and everything that's kind of going on in recruiting, it's a major factor. We got to double down in the states that are close. And, I know we didn't sign a Wyoming kid to a scholarship, but, that next set of guys, I think, are going to be guys that will be playing, from the state of Wyoming. But understand that Colorado and Nebraska, those are important states for us. And to get some guys out of there that we truly believe are going to be players is the best thing that could happen for the Cowboys. And so, we're excited about that.
Ryan,
Hey, Gordy, with Asante and Booty, obviously, different levels, FCS, SEC, but there seems to be a commonality in terms of those are academic schools. These guys have played a lot of football. Do you see them, even though they won't be here in the spring, as, obviously coming here to contribute immediately?
Yeah. I think, with what we did on our film evaluation and really getting to know their character, I think that's the most important part that, not a lot of media people talk about with recruiting is, how good of kids are these guys, because they're transferring, they're from a different deal. How are they going to add to our culture? And that was the biggest thing that we looked for, outside of just, they're a good football player. And both of these kids, I think, character-wise, work ethic, all the stuff that we, dug on, came back and, they flourished. And so we're really excited about them and the opportunity to get them going.
Alex,
Hey, Gordy. So there's, I think, 3 linemen on this list. So, I mean, how much of was an emphasis on that for you, just to kind of keep this culture going with the running game and everything?
100%. That's what we always try and do is you got to take care of the trenches. You look at the first signing class, the first signing day, we hit on 3 big defensive tackles, you hit on 2 more offensive linemen. And so, you always got to take care of the trenches offensively and defensively, because that's where games are won and lost. And so, that emphasis is always going to be there, to be able to make sure that the future's set and we can be, the top, group at an offensive line, defensive line that we can compete for a championship every year.
Cody,
Gordy, you talked about him a little bit, but Jack he's your guy. You're the running back coach. How special is that to be the recruiting coordinator and also get a guy at your position that you've seen? You obviously said he was with DeWyan. Can you talk about a little bit about seeing him, and were you kind of nervous waiting for him to maybe go off the board here before you could get a chance to get him?
Yeah, I was, really, we offered him for the first signing day and then, couldn't make it out on campus that first signing day in December. And so I was kind of worried. I was like, oh, shoot, we got to wait for second signing day to get him. But I think recruiting him for the longest time, it's very similar to the DeWyan situation where I've known about him since he was a sophomore, type situations, and being able to build a relationship with him, even though he didn't have a scholarship for the longest time. I knew what I was getting when he was maybe getting under recruited and we had a real shot of him, because he's a special kid. I'm really excited, and he potentially could come in and do some things this year. He's that type of guy.
Ryan,
Gordy, obviously you guys hit a home run with Cole Goodbow. Gavin Meyer looks like a really good player. Did that lead to more of an emphasis on Wisconsin, or is it coincidental? You're adding a couple more big guys from Wisconsin.
Right. I think and if some of you guys haven't spent a lot of time in the Midwest, it's a different culture out there. And when you're thinking about the trenches and the work that goes into it and physically moving dudes on the field, these guys have a different mentality. And, I think it is an emphasis. They're bigger people out there. You go out there and their moms are bigger and everyone's just bigger, and so that's a big part of what we're looking for is, they fit the character. They understand the Midwest way fits really well with our culture and being able to work.
Alex,
Yeah. So Gordy, with Davis, how much different is it to recruit out of a JUCO, and then obviously how much does it benefit having a guy like Oscar just with those ties to Texas?
Yeah, no, it's huge. That was a big reason. It's always hard because the junior college recruiting is almost, I don't know if the portal's pretty dang fast, but junior college recruiting is pretty dang fast as well. And so getting to know these kids and having connections and knowing people to be able to speak on their character and who they are is hard to do, when you don't have those connections. And so to be able to get it done and, have those connections with Oscar, I mean, it's extremely important for us.
Tracy? Tracy, you'll have to unmute yourself.
Given that over the years, you've made pretty good inroads in Colorado, does it ever surprise you that you're able to go into Fort Collins, or you're able to go into Northern Colorado, or even the Denver area and get some of the premier players?
I am, when you kind of just go down there and you see the stadium and you see the lights flashing and all the stuff that kind of goes on. It is kind of, I don't know, it kind of depresses you a little bit, but at the same time, I think there's a lot of kids in Colorado that still get overlooked, and, that's where we benefit from doing our job and having, the way to do it in our back pocket. We're going to sign some good kids, and just real briefly, like looking into 2024, Colorado is another really good class this year. And so, I'm excited about Colorado and the inroads that we've built for the last 9 seasons, but we need to continue to do that and do a great job there.
Any other questions on the scholarship, guys, for Gordy? Well, Gordy, if you want to touch on preferred walk-ons.
Yeah, perfect. All right. So, okay. So obviously there's quite a few of them. We've added 21 guys to the roster that will be new. And a lot of them, not a lot of them, but there's 5 of them that are on campus already that have walked on. And so just to talk a little bit about them, Lucas Chappell, originally from Star Valley High School, was going to Air Force, but he didn't clear his physical. And so ended up at Snow, didn't play there, just went to school because it was so late. But, Super 25 kid, he is a very good looking kid. Since he's been here, he's already working out, all those things. So we're excited about Lucas being able to, see what he's got this spring since he's here. Next kid, Jevin Davis from Kelly Walsh High School. And he actually went to Black Hill State. You might know Davis, his sister was Jariah on the track team that was here. But he's come from Black Hill State, and he looks the part as well. And so I'm excited to see what he can do. It looks like he's moving around pretty well in workouts so far. But he's a good one. Ethan Day, so another junior college kid. He went to Modesto Junior College, originally played at Ripon High School, which is like a smaller farm community. And so kind of has that, blue collar work ethic, all kinds of different things. But he played as a true freshman for Modesto Junior College in a lot of different spots, played linebacker, DN, D tackle, all those kinds of different things. And, I think he can bring some depth right away. I think he can develop and see where he goes. So I'm excited about Ethan. Dante Gavito, an offensive lineman, actually started 8 games for Fort Lewis, D2 school down in Colorado. He came up, he's a big 6'3", 275-pound kid who's going to be a sophomore. So I'm excited to see, how he moves around and gets in the spring, put some pads on and do that. And then the last guy that's on campus is Dalen Wilson. So he came from Cal Lutheran. Played ball in LA at a high school. He's a guy that has played a lot of football, at a Division III level in California, but, we got him to get on campus and, seems to be moving around pretty good. And so I'm excited to see kind of what those guys do as a preferred walk-on role to help us this spring and develop into a role. And so those are the preferred guys that are here on campus right now. And then the high school preferreds, we're really excited about those guys. 3 of them being from the state of Wyoming. Abraham Bangoria, he is from right here, Laramie High School, playing basketball, really athletic guy. His mom is a professor on campus here. He is the perfect project for us as a developmental program. He's going to develop and they're going to be 2-3 years down the road. People are going to be like, holy cow, this kid was right here in Laramie. Very similar situation. Now, I'm not going to say like Frank, but the film might not match the size and the athleticism that he shows, but he's going to be a guy that I'm really excited about, adding to the offensive line. Next kid, which I really like, Cody Crawford, defensive tackle, from Natrona. Coach Harshman loves the kid, says he's a whole nother guy that we're going to count on in the defensive line. And so, we're excited about Cody Crawford. He's pretty dang athletic. He's an alpine skier, believe it or not, at 270 pounds. So, inertia is probably getting you down that mountain pretty dang quick. And then another defensive lineman from Wisconsin, Jackson Galicia, big 6'5", 230-pound kid who, is moving around from Oshkosh West High School in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, came out on an official visit. We got him in the aspect of like, he's another big athlete that potentially stays at the end or moves into D tackle. And so getting some size and athleticism at some spots as a preferred walk-on spot, plus the scholarship, that's a big factor for us being a developmental school. Okay, next one's kid that I really like, Caden LaFramboise. He's from Thunder Basin High School. He is all of 6'3", maybe 6'4", but man, you turn his tape on, he's an athletic dude. I mean, everyone kind of is like, hey, playmaking ability, he's just like Bighorn. He's just like Will Pellissier in that aspect. And so we're really excited about him because I think he's going to be another Bighorn where everyone's going to be saying, all right, probably can't call him Bighorn, probably got to call him Gillette. I don't know if that rings as much, but he's going to be a player. I mean, basketball player, leading scorer on the basketball team, all that stuff. Next guy, Cooper Mayland, he's going to be another Parker in layman's terms. He's from Parish Episcopal in Dallas, Texas. He's a 6'2", 220-pound kid that is all over the tape. But he is an athletic dude that I think is going to develop into a guy that's going to be playing. He's extremely excited to be a Cowboy, and we're excited to have him. Next kid, Miles Tucker. He's from Amador Valley up in NorCal, in the Bay. Pleasanton. He plays at Amador Valley, but his film is him playing more linebacker in the box, but he's athletic enough and has the athletic ability to be able to play safety. And so start him out at safety and kind of see where he ends up. But I'm really excited about him. I think he's another guy that's going to, earn some time and do some things. And then this dude who everybody on this call needs to watch him, Jordan Turnbull. He's all of 6'5", 215 pounds from Evergreen High School down in Denver. He is unbelievable. And we are lucky to be able to sign this kid because he is going to be reckoned with. He's got some length. He's an unbelievable character. He plays extremely hard. And he's going to be a guy. And we're excited about him. And then lastly, we got Wyatt Walters, an interior offensive lineman from Grandview High School. The Grandview connection keeps being great to us. But Wyatt Walters is another guy who, had lower offers, FCS offers, but, trusted his ability and understands the importance of our offensive line. And so Wyatt Walters is going to be a guy that, I'm really excited about as well. But you kind of take a look at that roster, you just see size everywhere. And within that size, there's athleticism.
Questions for Gordy? Cody?
Gordy, obviously Coach Bohl, has brought this walk-on program from Nebraska and it's followed him all through his career. And it's really important to him. I believe he was a walk-on in Nebraska himself. How special is this to see how this has blossomed, and how proud are you of this walk-on program? And also, how easy of a sell is it when you say, hey, we have a guy playing in the Super Bowl who once walked into this program?
Yeah, I think, I don't know. We don't take it for granted. Number one, that's the one thing that, Coach Bohl has always installed in us as coaches is we treat everybody that walks in this building as equal. And that's the biggest part about this is these guys are going to be guys because they're going to come in with a chip in their shoulder and they're going to challenge some guys. And that's what it's all about. And so I'm really excited. I think this might be one of the best walk-on classes that I've been around since I've been here.
Alex?
Yeah, Gordy. So obviously five Wyoming guys, 3 right out of high school. I mean, how much does that help just kind of keep building the culture of bringing in these Wyoming athletes and kind of keeping them in the state?
Right. I think it's huge. It's huge, you know, being able to continue to develop these Wyoming guys and then have them play. I mean, that's huge. And there's a road, there's a map that these kids can follow and understand, like this isn't us just talking, you know, the proof is in the pudding. And to be able to get these homegrown kids that have wanted to wear the brown and gold their whole life, they're going to give it all. And that's what it's all about. And so I'm excited about these guys. These guys are going to be players.
Other questions for Gordy?
Gordy, I guess this Turnbull kid, I mean, you obviously lit up when you're talking about him. How does he escape the Denver area if he's that special?
I don't know. You know, that's something, you know, Coach English did an amazing job. We had him in camp, you know, weren't sure what we're doing at defensive end scholarship wise. And so, you know, we recruited him as a scholarship kid. And, you know, Coach English did a great job. I don't know, you know, that's $1 million question. That's, you know, fortunate for us.
Anything else for Gordy?
Before you go, how do you say I'm a cowboy in Polish?
Yeah, I have no idea. It's crazy. It sounds like a completely different language and I have no idea.
Well, if you guys don't have any more questions for Gordy, we'll let Coach make some comments. Gordy, thanks. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you, Gordy.
Guys, it was interesting. I framed a question to him saying, okay, this is not a verbal commitment, but how would you say it in Polish? And it just fluently came off his tongue. And so it was kind of an inside fun time that we had. What's interesting is we have 2 players on our team, one that is fluent in Polish and the other one is fluent in German. And so it gives you an idea that, you know, the sphere of recruiting is getting a little bit wider. I will want to say this too, guys. Many of you guys have joined our press corps over the last couple years. But as you fellas sit in your easy chair and you watch these NFL playoff games, please recognize that the number of players that are not just on a squad, but are making significant contributions on playing in the largest, biggest stage in football. Gordy identified those guys. And he and I spent years together when we first got here. And so he grinded through tape and found so many of these guys, whether it was Marcus Epps or Chad Muma or Andrew Wingert. I mean, the list goes on and on and on, which is why I felt like it was imperative for us to reinstate him back in this chair. He's wearing a lot of different hats, but as you can tell when he speaks about these guys, it's not like some off the cuff comments. He's got a deep book of knowledge on each of them. He's also a guy that we have a good enough relationship that either during the fall when I'm a little bit cantankerous or I've come back off the road, you got to look at this guy, coach. You got to look at this guy. You got to watch him on tape. You got to look at him. I think he's above the line. We got to take him. And he knows me well enough and I know him well enough that when he says that, there's a therefore. And so I just want to, I guess, give some credit on how this class has come together. And then also don't mistake. I mean, I think, Cody, you mentioned Marcus Epps. Gordy found Marcus Epps. And the list goes on. And when you see these guys that are playing late in the year, I've only been here 9 years, but I doubt that there's never been this many contributors that are playing on that national stage at that high level. And so kudos to Gordy. I know he's probably blushing. He looks like a general manager waiting to happen for the NFL. Anyhow, I can't tell you guys, I'm really excited about how this class has come together. Every year has different challenges, but this second signing date period sometimes can be so challenging because you've got your book on guys, and then how do you go about, and you're continuing to add value to a class. And so I applaud Gordy and the rest of the assistant coaches for, like I said earlier, putting the gas pedal down, and you will see some of these guys contribute against Texas Tech, and then you'll see other guys contribute in years to come. So that being said, I don't know if anybody has any questions for me. Cody, you raised your hand.
Yeah, Craig, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about this walk-on culture that you come from in Nebraska, and I believe you walked on there as well, and that you've brought that with you, and how special it is and how much it really means to you.
Well, first of all, I think it is special. And football, I believe, and Gordy will echo this, is still a developmental game. It's a game that men grow. It's also a game where when you say that you're going to zero in and make these great recruiting assessments, I was a young coach in the Big Ten, and Bo Schembecker said, if you hit on half your class, you're doing well. And so when you started talking about, well, we're not probably going to hit completely on half our class here at Wyoming, we need to be able to supplement this class. And Tom Berman has been great as far as having initiatives here that add value with our development, whether, the NCAA has allowed us to have supplemental meals at the training table, our strength and conditioning staff, our academic staff. And other than who signs a tuition check, you can't tell who's on scholarship and who's not, and the best man's going to play. And as you say, we've got a good track record, and it's added great value, and we're going to continue to do that.
Alex?
Yeah, Craig, Gordy touched on this a little bit. I just wanted to kind of get your perspective on some of these Wyoming kids. So a couple of them that I've talked to, obviously they've had other offers, whether that be like D2 or some smaller schools in the region. What does it kind of say about them willing to take a preferred walk-on and come play here and kind of earn a spot in the future?
Gordy zeroed in on this. These guys have a chip on their shoulder. In Proverbs it talks about, as a man thinketh, so he is. Many of these guys see themselves being able to play on this stage. And the other thing that's occurred is there's a pathway now of guys who have played, that they recognize, who have played from our state, that have come in and earned a spot and played significantly. And then the other thing I think that also is occurring is the infrastructure that's been put in place, whether it be facilities or the resources applied. Many of these guys look and say, if I really want to have a chance to develop as a football player, I can do that at Wyoming. And so I'm going to forego, maybe a better financial package at a FCS or Division II school. And, we have a bulletin board that sits outside in the hall there, the number of guys that have been placed on scholarship. And so, the Wyoming player and our presence in our locker room is so important. And I know everybody wants instant gratification, but when you add a presence of these Wyoming players who want to find their role and contribute, there's a reason why we've beaten, and the school's going to remain nameless, but we've rolled in there, and some people may not think it's that big a deal, but we've won our good fair share. And if you look at, quote, recruiting advantages and things like that, I think the walk-on player has been a big bonus for us.
Ryan?
Craig, I believe your entire on-field coaching staff no coaches have entered the portal, I guess. How much does that stability help in this process? And second part of that, kind of what is Kirby O'Mara's role in adding to what you guys are building here?
I'll take it first of all. I have a dear friend at Arkansas, Sam Pittman, and he talks about his wife one time maybe entering. If your wife enters the portal, you got real problems. Or I have a couple coaches. We always encourage our coaches, if there's an opportunity, Ryan, that they feel like is going to benefit them professionally or their family. If the stars have aligned, I think our coaches are intact. They see the optimism of this next year, and quite frankly, I do as well. And so you have an engaged coaching staff. It's a little bit unique for me. I was telling my wife, Leah, typically, you're running through and you're interviewing guys to hire. And for us to be able to roll up our sleeves and start preparation for spring football with everybody intact in their role, and they know each other and they know where our strengths are, I think it's going to give us a great springboard into 2023. As far as supplementing our recruiting office with Kirby, Gordy had done a significant amount of background on what we were looking for. We're looking for somebody that has a keen eye to evaluate talent, either through the portal role, and we have software that it gives us, the advantage to be able to get cut-ups on every player that plays college football. So he has experience doing that. Certainly he's from Texas, and you can see our footprint in Texas has continued to improve. And just the overall background of the schools that he's been at, whether it's been Florida or Central Florida or wherever, we're constantly looking for new ideas and a new perspective. And so he's hungry. He's hungry to jump on board with Gordy and I. We're anxious to hear his evaluation on how he sees some things. But I was real frank with him. I said, listen, you're going to learn to do it our way. Gordy and I have been together through many years, and we're going to sit through it, and we're going to show you, okay, this guy plays this position, but this is why we think he's going to project to a great defensive end. And he's willing to do that and is excited about doing that. So those are my answers.
Cody?
Craig, with the addition of speedsters in the portal in Body and Asante, does that mean Craig-Bohl's going to air it out a little more this year?
Well, Cody, why don't you just dial up the play sheet for me? There's no doubt anytime that we can see ourselves as being one-dimensional, that's a real challenge. But I can tell you this is, for us, Gordy talked about our secret. We're going to need to stretch the field vertically. We're going to need to separate. But overall, for us to win wars in the trenches, that's what's going to define us. That being said, well, now you get out of people, they're not going to be able to necessarily spin down and play quarters and put 9 men in the box, and they don't care if a 3 technique gets reached because they got somebody in that gap. Well, now if you got a couple guys that can really go, that changes the dynamics. And I forget which, I've watched these playoff games keenly, much more so than before because of the number of players that have been in there. But if you look at what Philadelphia was able to do, I mean, they just threw people out of the saloon up front. And so this is some of the points that Gordy was talking about, that the development of the trenches is important. So yeah, we're going to throw the ball more, Cody, but we're still going to have that tailback back there also.
Any other questions for Coach?
Next thing you're going to want to know is analytically, are we going to go for it on 4th down more?
Craig,
Ryan?
how excited are you for spring practice with this team you have coming back, and any chance we can watch a couple of them?
Watch a couple of them. Let me think about that. I'll have my people get back to your people on that, Ryan. I can tell you this is, first of all, I thought last year at this time, sitting in this chair, there were a lot of unknowns. And just because you have more known players does not, dictate that you're going to have a successful season. But I can tell you, I'm really optimistic about this group. I think there's a will come attitude and there's good ability. And so to really roll up our sleeves and say, okay, how are some of these new additions? How's Harrison going to look as a running back? That's going to be really important. And then as we, delve into a couple of the offensive linemen that are continuing to make progress, or, Tyreek is a corner. If we can get a lockdown corner, which he's shown competitiveness to do, now you can do a whole lot of array of things on defense that sometimes you're not able to do. So, I don't know what the adjective would be. I don't know if I've had as much enthusiasm going into spring football as what I have. I think we've shown that we're competitive in our league, and we're knocking on the door. What do we got to do to knock the door down? And that starts with our winter conditioning and then spring football. And then we'll have Kevin McKinney get in touch with you concerning your passes for spring football. They're probably in the mail right now.
Cody.
Craig, I think you guys would agree that you had a really good offseason. You didn't have the mass exodus. What did you learn about yourselves from last year that you changed this year when it came to the portal?
Well, some of it's going to be, some years you cannot. There's going to be some unknowns that you just don't know. And so I think there's going to be some ebbs and flows. Last year it was a mass exodus. Well, the summer before, Sports Illustrated or ESPN had voted us the #1 stability program in the country ahead of Clemson. So we're going to have some ebb and flows, but I do think this is, all of us are learning. Gordy mentioned on, the importance of recruiting a tri-state area. Well, the likelihood of those guys sticking out over the long haul, Chad Muma wasn't going to play anywhere else. Logan Wilson wasn't going to play anywhere else. Frank Crum wasn't going to play anywhere else. Had options like you cannot believe. That doesn't mean that we won't continue to recruit in the outlying areas, but my sense is we're having more players that are emotionally bought in and are part of this team concept. And the other thing I think that Gordy's done a great job is each one of these transfer guys that are coming in, we have vetted them deep. When I say vetted them deep, we've done like 3 references on brothers who will stand on the table and be blood brothers and vouch for their character. So I think we're doing a better job there.
Craig, you mentioned that Chad and them were getting offers. I mean, is it going to take somebody really blowing the whistle on stuff to get this stuff to stop?
You know what? Every time I can get on one of these soapboxes, it somehow makes it onto national news. So I'm gonna, and it does. I'm gonna be real cautious about what I say. We're in a different stage of college football, and I just know this is we're doing things the right way, and that's not throwing stones at any particular school out there. But yeah, when you get restricted calls that come in and say, hey, we're going to offer you this and this, and you can change your profile to go someplace this XYZ. Those aren't fictitious calls. And they come in, and we're not the Lone Ranger on having them. I mean, Nick Saban deals with the same thing. So not so much as starters, but maybe as backups, and maybe as starters with NIL. So we're swimming with the sharks, but I think we've evolved. And as Gordy said, I think we're doing a better job identifying what guys are really going to be emotionally intact, that they can get everything they want right here playing for Wyoming. Anything else, guys? Tim, anything else before I go off the rails?
If these guys are good, I think we're good. Thanks, Coach. Thanks, Gordy.
I want to say thanks. Gordy's done a phenomenal job. You can kind of tell I'm throwing a lot of sugar his way, but it's well deserved. And like I said, when you watch these playoff games, if you're a longtime Wyoming fan, you're going to recognize we haven't been in this place, and that guy over there in that sharp blazer is one of the guys behind it all. Okay. See ya.
Thank you, Craig. Thanks, Gordy. Thanks, Tim.
Thanks, everybody.